So it looks like everybody can see me and looks like we're ready to get going. I just wanted to do this pop-up live stream just to address something that I see a lot and it bothered me. Everyone talks about competitive advantage as if it's the holy grail. If you it's like everything revolves about improving your competitive advantage, finding your competitive advantage, neutralizing other companies' competitive advantage. However, very few people talk about creative advantage and what that means to you. Hey, I'm Zachary Alexander, host of the Subscription Maker Live podcast. In this episode, we will talk about what creative advantage is and how you can use it to make your business, your subscription business, a category leader. So let's start with what a definition. Competitive advantage describes a unique set of assets and attributes that allow you and your company to outperform others on the same playing field. It goes back to what I would it's like everything's a game and it's game theory. Now, I'm not opposed to that. It doesn't bother me to talk about the world as a game. But what you have to understand about the world being a game, what you have to understand is that games have rules. And basically games set you into a position where you can't get out of it. They're like games are like straitjackets for creative people. And the reason that I like to talk about creative advantage is it's all about breaking the rules. Now, we can talk about, let's go back and talk about, let's go back to competitive advantage. It describes a unique set of assets. That means it's something you can purchase, something that you can use to basically to hack the rules, to hack the game. It's an attribute. It's something that you look like. It's an appearance. But that attribute, those attributes, plus the assets, allow you to outperform others. And that's what it's all about. It's outperforming the market. Now, the person that came up with that is like Michael Porter. And he wrote two books about it. The first one was called Competitive Advantage. Odd title, So basically, he wrote the book on competitive advantage, and everyone else had to play the game. He became the category leader, the category pioneer, and what I like to call competitive advantage. Before then, no one else had ever talked about it, but that was his, and it's his book, and he wrote the rules. Now, that book was so popular that people tried to use that book and tried to apply those thoughts within that book to how nations compete. Now, this was an odd concept when he wrote the book because in 1985, there was no such thing as globalization. Globalization doesn't show up until the early 90s. Globalization can't happen until after the wall falls in Berlin. That's when globalization happens. Before then, there was no such thing as globalization. Now, what we also have to deal with is there was globalization, and then there was Tiananmen Square. And until the wall falls and then Tiananmen Square happens, you can't have globalization. But that's important for us because with a global market, it opens up the door to what's possible. It gives you, when you're dealing with a small market, 1 or 2%, 1%, so to say, let's say 1%. 1% is a small number. But when you're dealing with a large market, 1% can be a very large number. For instance, in the United States, 1% of people in the United States is 3 million people. Now, you can make a pretty good meal if you're selling to 3 million people, even if you're selling to them for just $1 a person. If you sell one item to them for $1, that's a pretty good meal. But let's talk about how you increase that, how you maximize that money, how you maximize your creative service, your subscription service, how you maximize your subscription service and the income you can produce. And you do that with, my friend, creative advantage. Creative advantage is a capacity to generate new ideas for service and products to meet the wants and needs of your customers. Let's say that again. Creative advantage is the capacity, not the ability, but the capacity, saying that you have something more, that you are not overly you're not overly stretched, so that you don't have you have the ability. It we used to call it, do you have the bandwidth to handle something new? That's what creative capacity, that's what creative advantage is all about. It's about creating that bandwidth to create something new, to put a process in place to create something new. Now, one of the things that happens when you can create this capacity, when this capacity is available to you, when you have set up your systems so that there is the ability to create, there's the capacity to create. The ability, everyone has the ability to create. Now we can do another video on design thinking, and how that impacts your ability to create and how that unleashes your ability to create. But that's a video for another day. Today we're talking about creative advantage and what that can do for you. And what I think about when I think about creative advantage is I think about category pioneers. I mean, like Michael Porter, for example. I mean, Michael Porter came up with something that no one else had talked about. No one else was, well, people may have talked about it. It may have been something in the back of someone's mind, but they didn't write the book on it. And that's what the category pioneer does. The category pioneer is a person that writes the book on it. The category pioneer is a person who defines what it is to be in that category, what that category looks like. If it's a subscription business, the category pioneer is the person who says what it is and what it isn't. The category pioneer is the person, or if it's in the example of a subscription business, the category pioneer is the company that becomes the category. I mean, you can think of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is a category pioneer. Now, you do have Pepsi, and Pepsi brings home a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Number two does that. But number one brings home the bulk of the assets. Number one, the category pioneer, is the one that ends up with the bulk of the cheddar. And how does it do that? What always comes back to our friend, the subscription flywheel. Now, for a lot of you, if you're new to this channel, the subscription flywheel may be new to you. You may not know what the subscription flywheel. Here's kind of, here are the things that the subscription flywheel is responsible for. Now, I have my own subscription model. Let me show you what it looks like. When I think of a subscription business, this is what I think of. I think of an old-fashioned antique sewing machine. That might be odd for you, those of you, are for our digital natives in the crowd. This is what sewing and creating and making fashion looked like at the turn of the last century. When we were just getting into this is what it looked like actually mid-century, in the 1950s. The 1950s, this is how you created clothing for your family. Now, what I like to look at is I like to say, up top there, you have customer Well, let's start with the foundation. The foundation is customer acquisition. Customer acquisition is where everything starts. I mean, there's sales and marketing. If you don't have sales and marketing, you don't have a viable company. The next piece is customer success. Customer success is delivery of the products and services that you actually create. It's the piece that's responsible for ensuring that everybody gets what they need, they get the training that they need to be successful with the product or services that you create. It's the piece that it's more developed in subscription businesses. Most businesses have a customer success piece. They call it customer support. But within subscription businesses, we call it customer success because it shifts. The main purpose of a subscription business is to have you become successful using our products and services. Because if you're successful in using our products and services, then you will stick around. You may not churn. I mean, basically, life has a habit of showing up. It doesn't matter how good your product is, life has a habit of showing up. You know, nobody when you have a pandemic, it's hard to have a business which requires in-person meetings. That's just hard. It doesn't matter how good your meetings were. When you have a pandemic and people cannot congregate, they cannot get together, then you have a problem. Now, with subscription businesses, so that's one thing. Then we have our friend here, the subscription flywheel. Now you can see the flywheel there, that wheel in the middle that's connected by a rod to the pedal. That big wheel there is the flywheel. And what that flywheel does is it spins and it builds up momentum as it spins. And the more you pump the pedal, the faster it spins and the more momentum it creates. Now the great thing about that momentum is that it doesn't stop. So, like your subscription service, once you've got people purchasing your subscription service, assuming you don't have some random act of nature, then the flywheel will continue to spin and it will spin at essentially the same speed as it has. It will maintain the same speed unless you do something to stop it, unless you do something to upset your customers, like a price increase. Beyond that, basically, your subscription flywheel will continue to spin. It will spin on, and I mean, that's just physics. So let's go back to our flywheel here. We have our flywheel, and that flywheel continues to spin. Now, what does that look like for a subscription business? I mean, what's a flywheel responsible for? I guess is one way of saying that. So our subscription flywheel is responsible for service discovery, near-term projects, and affiliate marketing and partner programs. Now, when we say service discovery, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about category pioneering. So basically, what you're going to do on a normal basis, you would let's just put the whole subscription business up here. So on a normal basis, you have your customer success piece. These are the people who are customer support and who are really the bedrock of the organization. So the starting point is customer acquisition, but the money is in customer success. If you can get people to stick with you for long enough and you can get them to continuously. Okay, I'm back. So if you can get people to continuously uh, subscribe, especially if you get them to stay past the point, to past their break even point. So every subscription business has a break even point. And this is the point where you have made enough money from, well, we bring it, let's talk about another term. Let's talk about customer acquisition cost. So basically, there is a cost to bringing in customers. So if we look down here at our light blue triangle or our light blue pentagon, we have customer acquisition. But customer acquisition is not free. It comes at a cost. It comes at a cost, either a cost of you, a monetary cost, or it comes at an acquisition cost. But there's always a cost of bringing in new customers. Now, customer success is so important because success has the potential to create a situation where people will renew. They basically, customer success is about getting people to the retention point. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to keep people happy enough to get them to a retention point and potentially to purchase more from you. So if they find something, if there are multiple tiers of information, or more, if you have multiple tiers of service, then customer success is about keeping people long enough so they grow how they use they grow the usage of your product or service, and it gets to a point where you have to where they decide that they choose to purchase a higher tier. They choose to purchase more capacity. That's what customer success is there for. That's their primary mission, is to get people to the retention point and eventually to a point where they will purchase additional capacity. And that's what we call expansion. That is the best way for companies or subscription businesses to grow. Now, you may find it odd that I talk about products and services. From my standpoint, from a product centric, excuse me, from a service centric viewpoint, everything's a service. I mean, you can add on a subscription to, which is reoccurring income, but from my standpoint, from my viewpoint, everything is a service. So when I say product, I'm talking about a product as in something that allows you to deliver the service. So the smartphone is a product, but it's there to deliver the service of wireless communications. So I'm going to get, there was a time when I would give you a smartphone so that you would purchase my wireless ongoing recurring revenue stream. So it's like, I'm going to make enough money from the product that I'm going to give it to you so you can purchase my service. Now, it gets better from a subscription standpoint if you can have a product which people will purchase in order to utilize your service, so that you're not out of pocket for providing them with the product to use your service. Keurig, when they started out, category leader, right? Category pioneer, single cup coffee maker. When that started out, it was a newfangled item. That's what we do with service discovery. We come up with new ways, new things, new opportunities, new opportunity spaces, which is a whole new category. We come up with those. That's our creative advantage. If you're a proponent of design thinking, then creative advantage is the holy grail. That's what you're trying to get to. Is you're trying to use your innate creativity to create advantage in the marketplace and to create a new category so that no one else can compete with you. so that you can eventually build a moat. Because the minute you become successful in a new category, someone else will get into that category and take you on. Someone else will reverse engineer your product, your service, and do some type of cosmetic change and then try to compete with you. Now, it often doesn't work. In most cases, it doesn't work because you're there early and you're continuing to do service discovery, service enhancements to your service, your subscription service, so that no one else can catch up. You can do that until you hit a point where it's good enough. Where basically all the everybody's satisfied. You've got fairly large um you're pretty saturated. At that point, it's good enough. And at that point, you're going to see additional people. But you still, Coca-Cola product. I mean, when you talk about cola products, there's a bunch of them. I mean, most stores have uh, their own brand of products, their own brand of Coca-Cola of Cokes. Actually, there's only one Coke, and that brand is out of Atlanta, and that is the category leader. They define what it is to be a Coke, to be a cola. If you're, I mean, you can buy other colas, but people will look at you and say, okay, I know you're being cheap, but what I really wanted was a Coke, and I may take a Pepsi, I may not finish it, but I may take a Pepsi, but what I want is a Coke. And that's how category leaders work. Now, of the process is what I call subscription handover, or I'm sorry, it's a handover. It happens between the subscription flywheel and it happens between the subscription flywheel business component, your that business unit, and customer acquisition. So that's an important process, this handover, this flywheel handover. So normally in a uh normal day-to-day operations, the subscription flywheel is going about and it's doing its thing. It's doing service discovery. It's generating near-term products. It's taking in affiliate marketing or it's doing affiliate deals in order to determine whether or not the product will be good for the company. So basically, you do affiliate deals so that you can, once you've done, let's start that. Start over again. So you do service discovery to determine what's missing in your product mix. You've got your normal services, but your category super fans are saying, "Hey, I like this, but I really need you to give me something else. I need so I like coffee. I like your coffee maker, but what I need you to do is I need you to go out and contract with other coffee producers and bring those into the ecosystem. So not only can I purchase coffee from you, I can purchase coffee from someone else, another vendor, but I can still use my coffee maker. That's a win-win, right? We don't care. Bring in your own coffee. Now, generally, I mean, if I'm a coffee maker, I mean, it affects me in some way, but you're still a customer. If I find out that you like a certain kind of coffee that I don't produce, then I'm going to use my partner program to get that coffee in, bring that in. And I'm going to do affiliate marketing and I'm going to get a little bit on the back end, kind of like my affiliate links when I talked about the books. It doesn't cost you any more, but I get a little something back for basically spreading the right word about something. That's affiliate marketing. That's what you do with your subscription flywheel is you do a little bit more. to keep things going, and you get a little something back. You're satisfying your customers. You're making your customers successful, because what is success to a coffee drinker? A good cup of coffee. So if you have a coffee maker, you can produce a good coffee maker will produce a good cup of coffee. If the taste changes, then you can provide them with other coffees from other coffee makers. Now that doesn't stop you from reverse engineering their coffee blend. So they create I'm not a coffee drinker for the most part. So they can create something like some dark roast coffee. You say, oh, everybody runs around and says, I need a dark roast coffee. And lo and behold, you find the best dark roast coffee and you bring them into your ecosystem, and they sell their dark roast coffee. Now, as you get more feedback on what makes a good dark roast coffee, then you do a near-term project, or and use that project to create your dark roast coffee. And eventually you get to a point where your super fans are telling you, hey, your dark roast coffee is better than the other guy's dark roast coffee. And you don't have to do anything to your partner's dark roast coffee. It's just that because you are the category leader and you produce, you're defining what the category is. Eventually you get loyalty from that. You get people who will say, okay, because I've got this dark roast coffee and I can purchase it from somebody else, but I feel bad because the category leader has done so much to make me feel good about drinking coffee, that what I want to do is I want to purchase my coffees from that category leader. And pretty soon, the majority of the coffee sales from that dark roast coffee comes from you. That's the subscription flywheel. Now, as we wrap up, and I think we pretty much covered what competitive advantage is. Competitive advantage is the capacity to generate ideas. Generally, you get those ideas from your super fans, and that's another topic I want to go into on another video. But just to get you started, something to think about, put a bug in your ear. Your super fans are people that will buy 3 to 4 times more products or services from you than your normal customer. So they are highly, highly sought after people from a purely financial basis. The problem is that they're outliers. They think differently. They're independent. They're the kind of people who say, I will buy a pair of scissors, but I won't just buy generic scissors. I will buy scissors for each thing I use them for. So my scissors will be of a kind that matches the actual job. So I will have a pair of scissors for each job that I want. And that's a powerful statement, because super fans, if they're a super fan of one category, they tend to be super fans of 9 other categories. See where I'm going with that? So if they're a super fan of your category, then they're also super fans of 9 other categories, which brings us back to service discovery. Now we know that eventually your categories are going to decrease. They're going to wane. Things are going to be good enough. And you're going to have to find a place beyond your individual category. You're going to have to find new opportunity spaces. And then you're going to have to develop products to match those opportunity spaces. Now, the great thing is that category leaders are your guides into those new opportunity spaces. They are where expansion take place. I mean, once again, we're back to the heart and soul, the expansion potential, the growth potential of every subscription business is the subscription flywheel. And with that, I want to thank you for joining me. Remember that there are links at the bottom uh, for um, for those two books, Competitive Advantage and Competitive Advantage of Nations. And if you like this, hit the subscribe button and the bell and icon for so that you'll know the next time I go live. Thank you very much.